You're listening to the No Labels, No Limits podcast with best-selling author Sarah Box. We focus on the mantra, no labels, no limits, no excuses. And now without further ado, please welcome your commanding coach with plenty of chutzpah and heart, Sarah Box.
Hey there, everybody. Welcome to today's episode of the No Labels, No Limits podcast, where we are on a mission to put nonprofits at the front of transformation. And today I have a special guest. Some of you will know who he is because we've talked before, but our focus is going to be on the transformative power of storytelling in the nonprofit sector. And although we'll be focusing on the nonprofit sector, all of the information we're sharing and talking about, the examples apply wherever you're telling your story. So let me tell you who we're talking with. My friend and colleague, Ken Fay, who is an Emmy award-winning storyteller and a vital member of our team. Now, as you know, or likely know if you've been around a while with our podcast, Ken has a rich background in media production and a passion for heart-centered storytelling that connects, collaborates, and creates really sustainable long-term communications and I'd say champions for nonprofits. So today, Ken and I are going to dive into how nonprofits can mine the stories around them and share these narratives in a way that significantly boosts their support and mission, whether that's getting people connected to your services or finding champions who will support you financially or with other resources. So hang in there as we get started. And I formally welcome my partner and friend, Ken Fay, to the podcast. Good morning, Ken.
Good morning, Sarah. Good to see you again, as always. Good morning, everyone out there listening and watching.
So I want to start, before I dive into picking your brain on certain questions, I'm always interested on what's happening in your seat. Like, what creative things are you working on in the next week or two that are kind of got you all fired up or having you stretch even?
Oh my gosh, that's a great question. So right now, I actually going to be on location for shoots in a few days. That's going to have me in the role of a scriptwriter, a writer in the background. Now, I've done this career for a long time, and I've been in a lot of different roles and seats in those roles in the media arts. It's just a joy, though, to be able to focus on the one thing. I'm usually a director of many things, right? So director, writer, producer, all gathered together and working with a bunch of teams, and I love every minute of it. This will be unique for me in that I'm just going to be the scriptwriter. Now, I say I'm just, but the truth is I'm going to be keeping track of what's being said, how it's being said, what's going on, and of course, lend my hand to the director and the DP. I'm making sure everything runs smoothly and that the client's happy. But it's just going to be a joy to just have that one role in this case.
So I'm going to make you define something for us. You said director, DP, and writer. Just briefly distinguish between those roles because they are slightly different. And even though in your normal life you can and do embrace all three roles, tell me what they are.
Well, so a writer is what you would think it would be, right? So in this case, I generated the original concept for this piece, talking with the client, talking with what their needs were to try to figure out what their story was. So it goes back to storytell, and came up with a concept that they love. It's going to have to do with the arts, which is fantastic. Art is close to my heart as well. And so this is going to have to do with the arts, and it's going to be a way of telling their story through the use of art. So looking forward to that. So as a writer, right, it's concept generation. It's then writing it all out. It's putting in all the words and the visuals and the idea and the flow and the pacing and get it all together and then present that as part of a project. Of course, as a director, you would take my words, you would take that script, you'd bring it to life. You have a vision for it, right? You work with the writer on creating the vision. And so a director is pulling in all the parts and pieces to bring that script to life. And so they're overseeing all the other production aspects that's necessary for this. And then a DP is a director of photography. That's your lens. That's your camera. That's the person that's paying attention to the lighting and the angles and working with the director on just making sure that all comes to life in the lens. And so those three parts really hold each other up and create magnificent things. And then you actually have a crew besides that. You have production assistants will be there. We have grips. We people work with the lighting and sound and all that sort of stuff. It all comes together to this cohesive machine that is organic in the way it works. But everyone has their role and everyone has their expertise and assignment to this project. And all of it is to make sure that the vision is being hammered home, the client is happy, things are on time and in budget, and everything just runs smoothly. So everyone has a part to play.
Fabulous. And that, as I'm listening to it, and as you have schooled me over the years, makes perfect sense to me. But as I'm listening to it, I'm thinking, wow, that's a huge production. So I'm going to make you go small for a little bit, because I know we recently completed a project that was very small, where you wore all those hats. We actually worked with someone who was your on-site. So I want to kind of talk about that from a place of going small, so that we're not telling people, okay, if you can't have all of these separate roles, then you might as well you don't have anything, right? So here's the question I have for you. Can you share about that particular example? I know you know who I'm talking about, but how you shifted the mindset from having to think like we don't have what we need to be able to create this story to working honestly in the very most scrappy way possible, where you never even stepped foot on site and had a great result. So can you just describe that process or your thought process around that?
Absolutely. Well, that's a great question again. Well, a lot of it is getting into the mind and the mindset of the people that we're working with, empowering them to say that you do have a story that should be told. And there's a lot of ways to tell your story. And we're going to come alongside you and help you tell your story. And then they sat back and like, well, we don't have any way of telling that story. And then you start to talk to them, and you start to unbox what they have in their toolkits. And you start to unbox what they have in their story arc. And then you point to them and you say, that in this case, they had 4 magnificent stories ready to go. And it was just a matter of creating the environment to tell those stories, right? So you get into the mindset of your client. You try to understand where their intrepidation is, maybe where some of their fears are, maybe where they want to go in a certain direction, they're just not sure how. And really, that's the point of mentoring, coaching, and coming alongside someone, and then just really helping them forward in that process. And that's how it started. And then from there, it moves into, well, here's a layout of those 4 magnificent stories. And they were looking at it as, well, we only have the one piece that we want to say. But when we started to break out what that one piece was, they realized this in chapters. Now, with working with nonprofits, and everyone out there that's listening and watching that's a nonprofit, you guys have amazing stories to tell, impact stories. You're changing people's lives. And so how many stories do you think you have is more than you even realize, right? And so it's a matter of focusing that back and saying, okay, and being a mirror to that nonprofit to say, this is what I see sitting in my seat as a storyteller, that you have this to tell. And so let's break that out. Let's break that into impact stories. Let's break that into a bio video, a little mini documentary about who you are, why you do it, why should anyone care? I mean, that stuff's important. But then also, here are the lives that you're helping. This is why you should care, because you're made a change in these people's lives.
So let's get small again. So when you're talking with folks and they think, well, I don't know, we've got all these little stories we could tell that we know, right? It's our life. We do this all the time. We can tell you, hey, this cool thing happened. This person called and said this was a result of something. But that's a lot. And how do you help somebody go, okay, let's pull it apart. What are the essential pieces of it? How do you do that?
It's kind of a process. It's a step-by-step process. Now, for me, and my heart is in storytelling and heart-centered storytelling. And what that means is a whole nother conversation, but it's really aligning the heart and the mind so that you have someone that's fully engaged in what you're showing them, teaching them, or instructing them, or sharing with them. So you really want to kind of get up to the 3 points of a narrative, which is, the setup, the turn, and the transformation. In this case of this group, they had setup. That's them describing who they are, why they do it, and what they do. That's its own video that was created. Then you have a turn. That turn is that moment where your audience goes, oh my goodness, that person's come through so much, and this is the moment that their lives have changed. And in the course of what we talked through, we had 2 individuals that really just hit it home. Their lives were tremendously changed and altered because of the work of this nonprofit, and they were willing to share. And if they had any intrepidation, that's part of the role of a storyteller. In my case, with us, with Sandbox, is that I come alongside them and I make it easy to share. There's no judgment. There's no agenda to it. It's just, let's talk about who you are, where you've been, and what's going on, and get that information out there to an audience that needs to hear it. Because if it's happened to you, it's happened to 100 people out there. And you're going to talk to that one person. And just envision that one person that you're going to be talking to. You're just going to make them go, you know what? I need to get a hold of this. I need to make that call. I need help. And that's where that strength comes from, move through the narrative, because you are helping people. It's empowering the people in front of the lens so that they can be empowered to tell their story and share it. And what we do is we just help them share that story. And bring it around to a place that they are comfortable and that they can share. And it's amazing what people have opened up to for us. And in my career, I've had people in front of me that have really just shared such tremendous things. It just leaves you after the fact, just sitting back and going, whoa, that's that human life, that person. Oh my goodness, they're so unique. They're so special. Like everyone on this planet, everyone has a story to tell. And so you break it up into those parts, it gets easier to tell. It's always a challenge, right? And that's what I love about this, is how to develop those parts and pieces, but it's worth telling the story.
Well, and then it gets to the part on the end when you're actually cutting and producing the video so that it tells the most salient parts of the story and makes the person who's being interviewed even more impactful in their stories. Because I know if you ask me to tell you a story, it takes me a while to figure out, okay, where am I going with this? What's my point? Unless it's going to be super rehearsed, which is not our way of telling story, right? We're talking authentic, heart-centered story.
Authentic, yeah. Our storytelling is very one-to-one, in the moment, genuine storytelling. And we just wrap around them kind of a guideline of where they can be in that storytell and where they could go. And if they go in a direction that you're like, wow, I didn't realize, they're sharing with me a story. And I've interviewed people that have never told anyone else this information, I worked with veterans in this case, and they were sharing a story that their wife had never even heard. And because of the comfortability, because of the place we were in, because of the questioning that I had, it opened up more, and they were sharing deeper and deeper things. So as an interviewer, right, in our case, as a producer director, I'm sitting there, I'm talking to them, building a relationship all at the same time. They're willing to share their life with me, a slice of their life. And so I'm thinking about a follow-up question to bring them up through it and to help them walk through a difficult memory or help them celebrate something than their story, It's just moving through it, and it's communication. It's nonverbal communication. It's verbal. It's everything.
So I'm just envisioning this. So let's talk a little bit. I know in a future podcast we're going to actually talk to the gal you worked with, but for now, just since we're talking about this kind of simple in concept project that required you to work entirely differently. Let's talk through how you helped both the person on the ground, let's just call her our client, right? Even though everybody we're connecting with ends up being our client in the sense that we care for them and bring them into the family. How you helped her kind of get ready to do this, and then how you showed up in the room to help the people you were talking with, because it was very scrappy, like I said. So just give us a little overview of that.
Oh, that. So it all started with meeting our client on the Zoom call, getting the preliminary information, meeting them one-to-one, understanding a little bit of their heart. And then it just broke into creating those storytells. And actually in this case, for this client, I created a series for them that they can move and go with for years to come, because now they have a vehicle in which to tell those stories. It's like a library where you build a shelf for them and go, okay, now all your books of that kind can sit on this shelf. And so now they have something they can just touch and pull down and use and put back and use. So that was super exciting for me to be able to give that to them, and for them to actually now have the ability through us to take those stories down off the shelf. So once all that was kind of settled, it came down to the client was very tech afraid. Like, my kids know how to work it. I don't know how to work my phone. I don't know how to work any tech. I have zero. Oh my goodness, I don't even know where to begin. And it became a subject of, well, let's talk about where we can begin. And I was available to her pretty much all the time that she had questions. At any points, right? She would text me, she would email me. Then we had some phone conversations, and it was just every time we talked, I had a plan to walk her through it from, oh my goodness, I can't touch it, to like, oh, when can we do another one? And that was all by just walking her through her own technology. So, what technology do you have in the back closet at your nonprofit, or what do you have on your desk? Maybe you have a small Sony camera that you've never used. You've only taken photographs with, maybe for an event, but it can do more than that, right? Maybe you have an iPhone sitting by, or an Android sitting over here. Maybe you have a ring light, right, that you use for your Zoom meetings. Maybe you have a quiet room, in this case, that's utilized as storage that we can turn into a set, and you could actually shut the door. And so I walked her through putting do not disturb signs. I walked her through notifying people in the building, creating a green room, that room where people wait before they get on set. And she just ran with it, which is awesome. She put out snacks and a sign and chairs and like coffee and tea, and just so that when people showed up, they could relax before they went into the set, right? And the set we set up in a corner of their storage room with a chair. She found a plant in the building. We put it on a nice stand. We had just a very simple, as you just said, a very simple set, but it was a focused place. We adjusted the light in the room. We had a ring light. We had a stand. And in her case, she just had a phone. She just had a phone. So I taught her how to use her phone, at least as a device to capture video, and some of the settings that she would have to have in mind, and how to place it and have a little tripod and work with it on a table. And then I was in the room on a laptop, and I was in the back of the room, but I could see the whole room, and I just had people talking to me through her recording device to me. And so I was literally just talking as I am right to you, asking questions and getting answers, the whole time recording it. And then we would take those recordings, it would be sent to me, and then I would edit them together into a nice little piece. And as you said, Sarah, before, someone can tell their story and you're like, I don't know, did I actually say anything I needed to say or what? I'm listening for sound bites. I listen to the world in sound bites. So I'll catch something and go, that connects. And that connects with the first thing you said. Ooh, and that connects with the last thing you said. And then piece that together. And now you are talking through it. And you have something that presents back to you.
So for folks listening, when Ken said he was in the room on a laptop, he literally was. Never once did he leave his own state. He lives in Florida. The client's in Northern California. Never in the same space at the same time, and yet a great result on not just an iPhone, but an outdated iPhone.
Yes.
I mean, it was fun. It was fun to see how she grew and started having a lot of fun with it, right? Because her stress level went down. But honestly, looking at the end product that she created, right, through your direction and coaching and stuff, it was just exciting. And at the end of it, we quote unquote debuted these to their larger collaboration just a week or so ago. And immediately So they all had a link to the playlist, the 4 videos, open playlist, so they could all look at them. They're partners in this bigger community connection thing. And this one gal said, "Oh, that's so great. I have a presentation after this meeting where one thing I need to do is share this one video, one of the videos that was a client impact story." And so she immediately was able to take that to demonstrate the impact of this group. So it was just from that organic thing of being flexible, and then Ken going, "Okay, how can we do this? We can do this. This is how you can do it." But what I loved was seeing the behind the scenes still shots you did with what the green room looked like, right? Because the one thing this client has exceptional amounts of, she has a lot of heart, but she also knows and loves making people feel comfortable. So that was all her wheelhouse. She goes, "Oh, I can make people feel good." And you could feel it. You could just feel it through the stills and all that, which become assets to the future communications, right?
Right. Absolutely. And it wasn't intimidating. It wasn't scary for the people coming on set. And you think about this as an interviewer, and you would know this too, Sarah. You talk to people through a lens, through this camera that we're talking to right now. We're not in the same location, but you have to build a rapport and a relationship and a genuine environment to which someone would share with you. And you meet a perfect total stranger. So part of what we do and part of what we bring is that experience of being able to do that. But it's deeper than that. There is a drive to really understand, listen. Listening is a big part of interviewing. Understanding, listening, and helping that person tell their story. And you do it in a way that has caring, compassion, and it's an honored seat to be the interviewer. It's an honor to be the person that says, "Tell me your story because I want to help you share this with the world," and let them talk and develop something for them. And that's what breaks the barriers. So there's no intimidation. I mean, and our client was very much like, "Oh my goodness, Ken, you would actually do this?" And I'm like, yeah, you need help. And this is the fastest, best way, easiest way for you that we can help you. You need help. Of course I'm going to help you. And that's what we do as a team.
Well, I think, honestly, what was so fun, and we're going to also in another episode break out the case story of a longer project where there was multiple videos, higher production. But what was so fun was from that first thing of we need to tell this story. And, they gave us a long timeline, but I think you turned it in like 4 weeks from concept, having her think through it, getting her key people she wanted to talk to in the room. You interviewed them, you produced it, and it was out. And what was great about that was it preceded this larger group meeting so they could start rippling that out. She didn't wait for it to be perfect. She didn't wait for herself to feel comfortable. She just said, "Okay, here we go." Yeah. But it came out so well.
Yeah. Yep. And that was part of this journey is this was an easy way for them, an easy, accessible way to have a storyteller in the room, literally, in this case, on a laptop. Right on a shelf, on a table, but I was in the room, so I was able to walk her through the setup, what it's going to feel like. I interviewed her first for her segment, so she had a feel for what it was like to be on the other side of the camera, so that she was learning this whole process when the guests came in, and so that it was much more relaxed. We had a system where we had people arrive, they would sign their name on a paper saying it was okay to be there. They had the green room, they had snacks, they had a sit down. They talked to me for like 5 minutes just to kind of get comfortable with what's going on. I answered any questions that they may have. And then we went into the interview and they were just talking and they were sharing from their heart. And it was a beautiful thing. And that's the nature of it. And they got up and they left, and a lot of them, that's it. There's no more. You said it. You've got it. We've captured it. And so easy. And what I love about this job is in my career, I've had people just say, "Oh, can you come back tomorrow? I just want to do this again. It was just so much fun." And so, like, "No, we're actually wrapped for today." But, but that's the beauty of it. It brings someone out of where they are, allows them to share some other way, and then just go, "Oh," and get it out there. And then, as you said, within 4 weeks from like, "Hello, my name is," to like, "Here you go. Go ahead and share it."
Let me ask you to describe not so much the about video, like where they wanted to start to explain who they are and what they do, but tell me a little bit about your impressions and getting Jack and Angelica ready to go. And then what I will do is we'll put a link, or we'll actually cut those videos into this episode so folks can hear like how you got there, and then hear or see, if you're looking online, what that looked like. And now you know it was done remote on an iPhone with funky little props, that you can't see. But talk a little bit about meeting both of those folks and how they touched you.
Well, it's an honor. It was an honor to meet them because, these folks, Jack and Angelica, have overcome so much, and they were not afraid to share their story. And it touched me, had an impact on me as someone interviewing as a storyteller, because I realized just much deeper how important it is for them to share and how important it is for this organization to do the work they do. And so many of you out there that are nonprofits, it's so important to continue on. I know it's hard, but you are making such a difference. And just based on these two people's lives, you saved their lives, and you changed their lives. You changed their direction of their life.
Lesson Links is a program that I got connected with because my son has some learning disabilities. He was diagnosed with ADHD. He's high spectrum autistic, and he just has some difficulty controlling his emotions. So I got connected with Lesson Links. Lesson Links has been instrumental in my family dynamic and helping us be able to have more comfortability at home, being able to just kind of navigate some of the difficulties that we've had with my son. I know Rhonda has done so much for us as far as sitting with us in a room where we felt comfortable, where everything was kept confidential, and she really broke down what the next steps were, what she could help us with, advice, resources online. She even went as far as creating behavioral charts and reward charts and charts that can be used within the school to help my son have motivation to do more and to learn healthy coping skills for him. And she also has attended school meetings with me. So she's gone to the school with me and met with the teacher and the principal to really break down what some of those learning barriers and learning curves were for him and his specific diagnosis. So if there's any parents out there who are struggling, whose kids just are a little bit more difficult than you wish they were, I would definitely recommend reaching out to Lesson Links because it was such an easy, streamlined process. There was no judgment. I was met with open arms. There was no bias. And I felt very heard. I felt very understood. And it was a very easy process to be walked through. And there was a lot of explanation that came with it. I really felt like, they were holding my hand in a positive way, in a way that I wanted to, where I now feel much more confident in parenting my son, who is excelling in school finally and has just done wonderful things.
And so Angelica's story, she was a mom and she had a son, autism, working through all that. And then having this organization step in and help her, come alongside her. And it really showed the heart of this organization that we're dealing with here. The way they came alongside her was above and beyond this, of what organizations can sometimes do. And they really took her in, and she was such a raving fan that she's like, let me just tell my story. I just got to tell you guys this amazing story. This is where I was. This is the hardships. And here I am. And to anyone else out there, don't be afraid. Ask for help. There are people that want to help you. That is a huge fundamental change. And her life has changed, and she's, gone on to other things now, and her son is so much better. And that was a powerful impact story, because how many single mothers are out there just struggling with something and not feeling included or isolated? Just one demographic of folks?
Through Lasting Links, Rhonda introduced me to the services at the building, resources here. And where they have the fire chief, they have housing, they have with the Lasting County Health and Social Services. So just being introduced to all the things and all the variety of resources and helpfulness that they can give us, that's when I just started sitting down and find out what could best match me, my needs, and then go from there. I'm not from this county, but I just recently resided here, and I've never seen anything like it before. I mean, it's a very tight-knit community with individuals that are working for the county, for the state, and have all these resources and have can guide you. It's incredible because I didn't really know where I needed to start at. I just knew that I was in dire need of some guidance, and I really felt very embarrassed of my predicament that I had in my life. So through being invited to come down here and being transparent with these people, it changed my life. It will change. Even if they don't provide everything to get you on your feet right then and there, it slowly but gradually introduce you to people and environments and situations that helps you better yourself. And they're so warm and greeting here. Once you come in, they'll greet you at the door. They'll ask you what your needs are, make you feel comfortable, and just the environment it's fantastic. And even if you just want to come down just to see what services there's to offer, even if you don't end up using their services, it's just a great experience to come in here and be in the atmosphere of all the people here and involved, and it's amazing. If you feel like just desperate, confused, or just need answers, or just some type of reassurance of what you're doing in your own life is the right way to go.
Jack, another demographic of folks, really hard times, the worst kind that you could think of, going through the worst parts of, just homelessness and beyond. And so he realized that he needed to make a change in his life. And he came to this group because they invited him in. And because of the warm, welcoming nature of this group, he said, okay, because it was so hard for him to ask for help, And he said, okay, let's see what you got. And they gave it to him. And his life has changed. He's got his life back. He's gainfully employed. He has a place to live. So many things have happened in his life to change him around. And he was so genuine. So this is who I was. And I had issues. And now I don't. And because of them. And he was telling other folks, again, don't be afraid. Ask for help. You might think you got it all that. And you're all that in a bag of chips, but you're not. We all need help. And so come to people like this. And they embraced him. And it's changed his life, right? And so these two folks were the epicenter in a way of why this organization exists. And so part of this conversation with the client was to say, think of those that in your immediate mind that, oh my goodness, the impact and their turn of events on their lives. And there's probably hundreds and hundreds of names they could have put out there, but they said, you know what? Thank you. These are the two that I really think we could settle on to start. And that started the whole series for them, because there's going to be other stories like this, and they could have a place to use it and show it.
And not only that, now they know how to capture it,
Yes.
right? And how to think through it. So it's the old teaching a person to fish versus giving them a fish.
Yep. And I love that. I like, as an artist, I liken it to also being a painter with a blank canvas. And they come into my studio and I show them how to put the paint on the canvas. And then I go to their studio and then I just do a little bit more with the brushwork. And eventually they're painting on their own. They've got the tool set. And then they just say, they're looking for different influences. They're looking for different ways of telling that paint on the canvas. And I just love that, because I just love to open up the entire art studio to them in this case, and just say, well, here's the colors you have and here's ways you can put it on the canvas. So, but it's like, it's just what you said. It's teaching someone how to fish, and it's fishing alongside them as well. Not just say, here's a rod, here's a, go out there, there's a lake, have a good time. It's like, I'm going to go with you. Let's have a fishing trip. It's more like that,
It is. And you can make it fun. because learning can be intimidating for some folks, or some people just eat it up and they love learning everything. So Ken, I'm going to wrap this episode here. Because I know we're coming back and we're going to dive into storytelling, and we're talking from a visual format. Although, as you mentioned early in the start of the podcast, there's always the writing and pulling the nuggets out. So we'll get into that as well in the future, from longer 20-minute documentary length things into outside events, how you do that. And we'll bring on this person we've been referring to and have her tell it from her side of the lens, like, oh, what was it like to do this? So I want to thank you for being front and center on the No Labels, No Limits podcast this week. Folks, also we'll put links to these 2 videos we've talked about. We're going to cut them into this, but we'll also put links in there if you want to just check them out on your own and give some thought and see if some of it fits for you all. If you are not currently connected with us or the Sandbox team of creators, go to our website. Sarah@sarahbox.com is my email, but just go to sarahbox.com and you'll see all of what we do there. You can find out more about Ken and our team under the Work With Us About Us page. And we'd love your feedback on that, because we finally, after a few months, just got our new website up and going. So have a great week, everyone, and we'll be back soon.
You've been listening to the No Labels, No Limits podcast with best-selling author, change agent, and strategic business coach, Sarah Box. You can grab the show notes and find out how to work with Sarah at sarahbox.com/No Labels, No Limits podcast. We'd love this podcast to reach as many people as possible. Please remember to rate, leave a 5-star review, and share the podcast with someone you think would get value from this conversation. Till next time, keep taking those daily action steps to align your purpose to your principles and achieve your goals in business and life.